So the book module, Adobe partnered with the photo book company Blurb to design this. And they work with Blurb because they know that Blurb makes great quality photo books. So they're at blurb.com, and here's an example of a photo book from them. Now we can do various sizes in Lightroom, and of course I'll show you how to set the settings. But this one is an 8x10 portrait size, and it's what's called an image wrap, in that the photo on the front is printed straight on the cover. There's no dust jacket. And I won't flip through all the pages here, but this particular person has single photos on each page and some text in here. So this is the image wrap, portrait 8x10. I'll show you a landscape 8x10 that's done in softcover instead of hardcover. So another option you have, make softcover books. Softcover books are going to be cheaper than the hardcover books. Next, we have the 7x7 square book. Softcover or hardcover with a dust jacket or image wrap. But here's an example of a dust jacket. And in Lightroom, we'll be able to design, of course, the cover, but including the dust jacket. So we could put text on here and a photo, for example. So that's the smaller size. Then we have the, let's see, I think it's 11x13. We'll see in Lightroom. But 11x13 sized, again, hardcover or softcover, dust jacket, or image wrap. So those are Blurb books. You're going to see that you can also create with Blurb. What you're going to do is design your book here in Lightroom, hit the Upload to Blurb button, and it automatically will go up to Blurb's website. And I'll demonstrate that this afternoon. But in that process, you can also have Blurb create an ebook from your design. And you can offer that on the Blurb website for free or for purchase. Of course, the physical books you can offer on Blurb's website. You can make them available privately. You can make them available publicly. Lots of flexibility in terms of how you offer your books. In addition, if you're not ready to work with Blurb and you just want to create a PDF, maybe you want to show your photos and your designs on your iPad. You can create a PDF in the book module, download that PDF to your iPad or send it off to your friends as well. You can also create JPEGs of individual pages. So as I showed a few days ago, yesterday I think, maybe it was yesterday. The days are blurring together, but I showed you an example of just a cool page layout. If the book module has so many great page layouts that you can create a one-page book. You can create a one-page book with a design that you like, output this page as a JPEG, and then re-import it and print it, send it off to people, etc. So a lot of flexibility, a lot of things you can do with it, and you're going to see that the page layouts are just really nice, and it's really the best way in Lightroom to combine photos and text. Okay. All right, so let's talk about workflow a little bit first, just to remind you of the general output workflow, and it definitely applies here in the book module. First, I'm going to go to a folder of photos. So I'll go to we'll use my Victoria photos for today in building a book. And I'm going to pull together a subset of these to be used in my book or to be considered in my book. So I'm going to create a collection and drag my photos to it. So in the collections panel here, I'll click on the plus, click on create collection, and this will be my Victoria book photos, really candidates for the book. I'll click on create. And I'll scroll down so that I can see it. And let's see, where did it go? Here it is, right here. Victoria book photos. More caffeine. Okay. All right. Collapse my film strip here so that I have a little bit more space. And I'll start dragging photos to it. Now, just for the sake of making this quick, I'm going to click on the first, and let's just say that Shift-click on the last to take those. Hold the controller command key down. Take this one as well. And I don't want you guys to see me or to take the time to, of course, select all these, but I'm doing it anyway. Okay, let's do this. Controller Command A, and we'll just put them all in. But really, my purpose of creating a collection and just reminding you how to do that was to show you that if you want to pull together a subset of a folder or photos from multiple folders, that you'll create a collection to do that, and you'll drag your photos into it. Next, I'm going to think about what order I may want them to appear in the book. Now, this is really an optional step in that you can rearrange pages, you can rearrange photos at any point in the book module. It's extremely flexible. However, there is an option in the book module called Auto Layout that creates the first draft of the book for you. And it's going to use the order that you set here in the library module. So if after seeing it you decide you want to use Auto Layout, then here in the library module, click inside the thumbnails rather than the gray border and drag to rearrange your photos into at least a preliminary order. Finally, here in the library module, if you want photo captions to appear either alongside or underneath or above or on top of your photos in the book module, I would suggest adding that information here in the library module into the metadata. So if I select this first photo, for example, to add a photo caption, I would come over to the metadata panel and I would type it here in either the title or the caption field. Now, if you don't see title or caption, remember that to the left here, where it says metadata, click on the drop-down and choose default, the default view of metadata, so that you can see that. So let me just add a title on the first one. I'll just say staircase. I'll just say staircase, because I can type that fairly fast. And I'll hit enter. Now, this time I didn't say, as I did with slideshow and the other modules, if you want photo information to appear, definitely do it in the library module. I said consider doing it in the library module. Because in the book module, you can actually type text into any text cell straight in the book module. I prefer, though, if I'm going to use photo captions, to do it in the library module because the metadata is searchable in Lightroom. So if later on I'm looking for all my staircase photos, then I can search for that because this title field in the metadata is searchable. So it really allows me to use that information later. If I go into the book module and I just type in the photo caption, that's not searchable in the future. So I figure why not have that additional added benefit. Let me just go ahead and put a couple more titles on here, at least one more, just so that you see how these will show up in the book module. So I've pulled together my photos in a collection. I've considered rearranging them, adding photo captions. Next, of course, I would go to the develop module and I would finish my develop work. So I would check carefully for spots, just get it as perfect as I can. I would consider soft proofing in the develop module, but I don't think that most people are going to find value in soft proofing in the develop module for books, at least for books that are going to go to Blurb. Remember, we soft proof either in sRGB or with a printer profile. Blurb's printer profile is a CMYK profile, so it works in a different color space. It doesn't work with RGB colors that we're used to working with as photographers. And CMYK profiles can't be used in Lightroom. So you can't preview directly what may happen to your photo when you print it out at Blurb. That said, most people that create Blurb books have never heard of soft proofing and are very happy with their books. Just remember that any time that you send something to a printer, if you have extremely saturated colors, they may get shrunk down a little bit to fit into what your output device can handle. So that's kind of, I could say that you could soft proof in sRGB as kind of to get some idea in that as you output from Lightroom, before it goes to Blurb, it gets converted to sRGB. and then it goes to Blurb and they work in CMYK. So as it gets shrunk down to sRGB, you will lose something, and you can preview that by soft proofing with sRGB. But don't take that as the final prediction of what your results are going to look like. Now, that does bring up the point that if you're going to order 20 copies of a book, I would suggest ordering 1 copy first, making sure that you're happy with the work that you did in it, and then ordering the rest of the copies. But again, most people have been very happy with their books straight out of Lightroom. So, okay, so let's go ahead then and go to the book module. Go to multi-page view here. Now, in my Filmstrip here, if I can get it up here, my doc is fighting me this morning. We're going to have a talk at break. Okay. Now, I've got my photos showing here in the Filmstrip, and if I look over on the left-hand side, as you've heard me say in every output module, I have the collections panel. So I have access to other collections of photos, and you're going to see that if you want to save your bookwork, your layout, and your photos, you're going to do it with collections. Now, unlike the other output modules, there is not a template browser. There are no templates or really saved layouts for you to start with. So that's missing, and of course, we have something else called auto layout that we can use that's fairly similar, but you can't save your design separate from your photos in the book module like you could in the other output modules. Yesterday afternoon, we created a web gallery design. I saved that as a template so that I could use it with other photos very easily. It doesn't work that way in the book module. There's no separate template. However, towards the end of the day today, I am going to show you how you can reuse your book designs. Okay. All right, so we're here in the book module. I've got my collection of photos, Filmstrip at the bottom, and on the right-hand side, just like in all the other modules, I've got all of the settings to design my book. And there are a lot of settings here, of course, and that's why we're going to spend a fair amount of time. But you're going to see that, I hope you weren't intimidated or discouraged when I said we're going to spend a whole day on this in terms of, it's not hard, it's just that there's so much flexibility and so many options that it's worth spending a day on. At the top here on the right, we've got book settings, so let's start here. We first want to choose the type of output that we're going to create. So a Blurb book, a PDF, or individual JPEGs of our design. Now, I can change my mind later. I can say Blurb now and then change it to PDF, tomorrow if I change my mind. That's not going to be an issue. So I'll go ahead and say Blurb here. And then under size, I've got my 5 sizes. So you've seen the small square, the 7x7, the 8x10 portrait, 8x10 landscape, the large landscape, 13x11, and then one that I didn't show you, I don't have an example here, is a large square, a 12x12. Excuse me. By the way, I'd suggest if you're not sure what's going to look good in terms of size, go to a bookstore. Look at their photo books. I find that some of my photos look good really small, others really look good bigger and bolder, but there's just so many great examples out there. While I'm mentioning that, I'll also mention that the Blurb website has lots of books on there that you can look at to get ideas. So go into the bookstore on Blurb and take a look at those. Now, most of them were not created with Lightroom. They were either created with Blurb's BookSmart software, or they were created possibly using InDesign. So if you see a really sophisticated design, it may have been done with InDesign rather than with Lightroom, but still a great place to get ideas. Now, I would suggest that you think ahead before you design your book here in terms of what size you want the book to be. If I choose 8x10 landscape and I design my book and then I change my mind and decide to go with something bigger, it's going to mess up my layout somewhat. So I'm going to have to go through and fix issues that I may have. Not the end of the world, but if you can make the decision up front, you'll be happier. So we're going to do a Blurb book. We'll do standard landscape. the cover type, we've got the image wrap cover, which again has the cover printed straight on the cover, and then of course we have the dust jacket version with the paper cover. Notice on the dust jacket version that nothing's printed on the book itself. This is fabric behind the dust jacket. Okay, and then we've got soft cover. Now, I'm going to cover PDFs later, but I want to just show you that if you're designing a PDF or a JPEGs, you can choose to not have a cover. If I'm going to put this on my iPad, I'm not going to want a cover because the cover is 2 pages wide. It's twice as big as the other pages. So the Lightroom team has thought of everything here in terms of having the ability to do no cover. So let's go ahead and go back to Blurb here. And okay, standard landscape, we'll do a hardcover image wrap. Paper type, we have a few different paper types here. So we have both matte and a coated paper, a glossy paper, and the Pro line is a higher end paper than the premium luster and premium matte. Another thing I would suggest is that you go out to the Blurb website and consider ordering a swatch kit. So you'll get examples of the papers with photographs printed on them so that you can really get an idea of what you're going to like. Now there's actually a standard paper type here in the swatch kit that Adobe doesn't offer because it's too thin. Okay, your photos kind of show through the pages a little too much. The swatch kit also has samples of the fabric covers for your book, and it has samples of the end sheets. So an end sheet is in only a hardcover book, and it's basically just the first and the last page of the book. As opposed to, I'll show you this because I think it will be important in your design, and that is in the softcover book, when you open it, you're on the first page. So with a softcover book, if you want a blank page, you need to think about that and put a blank page in there. Okay. Logo page. So when you're going to create a Blurb book, you have the choice as to whether to include the Blurb logo on the last page of your book. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. Of course, I'll tell you later how to zoom in. But if I open up the preview panel here and I come down here, you'll see that we have the Blurb logo on the last page of the book. Now, having the Blurb logo on the book, the last page of the book, saves you money. So if I turn this on, I think I'll save about $8. Notice that you've got the estimated price right here. And as you build your book and you add more pages, you're going to see this increase. But that's really handy to have. So this says 36 now. If I turn this off, it goes up to 44. So for casual books, I wouldn't mind having it on the last page. And then learn more is to go out to the Blurb website. Okay? So go explore their books out there, order a swatch kit, sign up. You're going to have to create an account. When I show you how to upload your book, it's going to ask you for your login information. So this is how you'd sign up. Go to the Learn More button here. Any questions that have come in just in terms of what can I use the book module for, or kind of before we get into the how-to?
Yeah, maybe just some general ones.
We have, general questions about the book module.
Yeah.
Okay.
Already.
Yeah. Great.
Some good ones too.
Okay, great.
Phil Birdie from the chat rooms is asking, is it possible to get the photo cover and a photo dust jacket?
No.
Okay.
Easy answer. Travel bug. My husband and I both love to travel, and both of us take pictures. Both of us choose our favorite pictures and edit them in Lightroom. Is there a way to bring my husband's pictures into the Lightroom library so I can make one book with both of our pictures?
Yes. No. Okay. All right. Okay. So your husband has a Lightroom catalog, and you have a Lightroom catalog, and you want to bring his into yours. So what you would do is in the library module here, you would go to File, Import from another catalog, and you would navigate to his Lightroom catalog. Now, a Lightroom catalog folder has a lot of files in it, but what you want to select here is the LR-cat file. So if I right-click on this and go to Properties, I would see that it's an LR-cat file, but really you know that because you have the Lightroom symbol here as well. So select your husband's Lightroom catalog, and then go ahead and open it and go through the process of bringing it into yours. Now, if you don't want to bring in his whole Lightroom catalog, you just want to bring in one folder of photos or collection of photos, then right-click on that collection or folder and choose Export this collection as a catalog. It'll create a little one, and then import that into your master.
Okay, maybe a couple more, because the questions are coming in like crazy,
Yeah.
and I know you've got a lot to cover.
That's okay.
But since you were kind of talking about logos at the end
Yeah.
of the book, a couple of questions came up about that. Specifically, Annette D. from Palm Beach is saying that she's putting together a book for a client, and they require a small logo to appear on every printed page. Is there an option to do that?
Trying to think what I guess I was hoping the question was on the last page, in which case you could just put it in as a photograph.
I have that question too. I was going to follow up with
Yeah,
that.
so
that
that
is
would
there.
be an easy one. You would import that logo as a photograph and then just have it as your final photo page. But if you want it on every one, you can, yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that one.
Okay.
So,
And then the logo that does go at the end of the book that you said has to be a picture, that can be your own logo, correct? That's what this person is asking.
correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Alrighty, yeah, the questions are pouring in now. But you're
Cool.
probably going to answer a lot of these as we go
Yeah.
through, so we'll save some of them for later.
People are with us, that's great.
Yeah, that's great. They're like, hey, how do we do this? Lynn is asking, if we're using Lightroom to build your Blurb book, is there any reason to download the BookSmart app from Blurb and use that?
I don't think so. I mean, you can't use them together, and you're going to see that Lightroom's application here is really powerful. So I would suggest just going with one.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think we're just going to continue and just kind of hold off on these for a little while.
Okay,
And we can
great,
maybe come back and revisit them.
great. Question in the audience? Thought I saw a hand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Sean.
Right at the beginning, when you started and you have the choice of the Blurb, JPEG, or PDF, is there an advantage or disadvantage to starting with either one if you're going to use two of the three possibilities?
Yes, I would start with Blurb, and I'm going to show you in detail this later, but Blurb will warn you if your photo doesn't have enough pixels to create a high quality result. And when you choose PDF or JPEG, it's not going to do that because it doesn't know where the output is going to. So at least if you're going to do high resolution PDFs and JPEGs, leave it in Blurb mode first, and then at the end, switch it to PDF or JPEG. Great question. Okay. All right. So let me just give you a sense of kind of the order we're going to do things in. People are asking questions and stuff. We're going to start out with just some basic skills. I'm going to show you, just introduce you to the auto layout function, and then we're going to start moving photos around, adding photos, deleting photos, moving pages, those kinds of things. I'll show you photo captions. And then we're going to go into building a book from scratch. We're going to set auto layout aside and do it ourselves. And we're going to learn how to create different page layouts, single photo layouts, multi-photo layouts, how to work with those, how to refine the layouts by adding padding. Padding sounds very boring, but in a workshop I just taught, the quote for the day really was, it's all about padding. So, a very important skill. We're going to go into how to change the backgrounds of your pages, make them graphics, make the backgrounds photos, change the color of your background. We'll go into the specifics of adding photo captions, adding text pages, for example, a title page, an introduction page with text. We'll do a lot of formatting with text. Then we'll go into designing your cover. There are a lot of cover options in here, and I'll show you some tricks for getting some cool designs out of that. We'll then go into, at that point we'll be done creating the book, So we'll go into how to review the book, just some tips on how to efficiently go through and make sure that everything looks good, and I'll show you how to create a proof copy of your book you can print out with your own printer at home before you hit the buy button on the Blurb book. And then we'll get into uploading and exporting your book. Following that, I'm going to go more into auto layout to show you that you can take control of this first draft that Lightroom creates. But I want you to learn all of the underlying skills first, rather than simply relying on auto layout. And then at the end, I'll show you how to reuse your book design for future books. So that's a little sketch of what we're going to do. So let's create a book. This is just getting too boring for me. So in auto layout here, I'm going to just start with something that you guys have on your own machines here. Left blank, right one photo. Yours is probably set to that. I'll get into explanations. But I just want to click on auto layout here and have Lightroom create a first draft of my book. So this to me is exciting in and of itself, because all of a sudden I have a book. Okay. Now these exclamation points are already telling me that some of these photos don't have enough pixels to get a high quality result. So I'll get into that in a few minutes. But in the presets here, left blank, right one photo means just that, right? The left page is blank. The right page has just one photo that either fits or fills the page. Now I want to show you a couple small concepts here that are then going to allow me to go into preferences, and we can set preferences. So now that I have something in front of me, I'm going to double click on the 5 here to zoom in on this page. Now this photo again is fitting in to the photo cell, which is taking up the entire page. I want to show you fit versus fill. You've seen this in the other modules as well. So this fits the page. If I right click and I say zoom the photo to fill the page, I'm doing exactly that. Now this page is a different shape than my photo. If I click and drag inside the photo, I'm deciding which part of the photo I'm going to crop off. So I needed to show you what zoom to fit and zoom to fill were before we go into preferences. Now I'm going to go back here to multi-page view, which is this first icon down here in the bottom left. Okay, so with this first draft of the book, let's just learn some basic skills, okay? Let's say that I don't like this photo here. It doesn't have enough pixels, so I want to replace it with another photo. I'm going to come down to the Filmstrip, and I'm going to click inside a photo thumbnail, and I'm going to drag it up into the page. It's that simple, okay? Now I want this photo over here and this photo over here. Click, hold, drag, and they're swapped. This photo now I actually just want to delete. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to remove the photo. Now let's put a new photo on that. Click, hold, and drag, and I've got a new photo in there. So that's what I mean by there. I mean, there's a lot of options in here, but each step along the way is not difficult to do. Now let's go ahead and look at this page closer. I'm in multi-page view. I've got down here in the toolbar multi-page view, 2-page spread, and single-page view. And for those of you that want shortcuts, Controller Command E, Controller Command R, and Controller Command T. Now, I would have trouble remembering those three, except, and I learned this from Julianne Cost, who is the Lightroom expert at Adobe, that if you look down at your keyboard, you'll see that ER and T are right next to each other. So Controller, and I just accidentally hit D or R. I just hit R. So I went to the crop tool in Develop. So I did that to just remind you how to get into the crop tool in Develop. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to book. So Controller Command R takes me to 2-page spread. Controller Command T takes me to single-page view. Now, whether I'm in single page view or I'm in two-page spread, I have these navigation buttons underneath my book. So 2 to 3, click on the right one, I go to the next two-page spread, the next two-page spread, etc. I can also use, and I prefer to use, the arrow keys on my keyboard. So left arrow and right arrow. So Controller Command E takes me back to multi-page view. To get to this single page, I can also zoom in on this page by clicking on the page number. So I'll click on page number 3 here, and I've got it up. So Lightroom is telling us that this photo doesn't have enough pixels for Blurb to print it at high quality. Now this particular one is blurry to start with, so I might get away with it. But let's actually take a look at how many pixels it has. I'm going to click in the photo, and I get this zoom slider. Now since I'm here, let me just show you that this is another way to zoom in on the photo and have it fill the page. And then you can continue to zoom from there. So you can see that I can really zoom in and enlarge this photo. Of course, the more I do that, the fewer pixels I have available per inch. Now, this is one of those, I don't know, if you remember yesterday, there was a secret key that revealed a lot of additional powers in Lightroom. Does anybody remember that? This is the Alt or the Option key. So if you hold the Alt or the Option key down, you'll see that in this zoom slider here, you have to first, let me just back up, click on the photo. That reveals the zoom slider. Then hold the Alt or the Option key down, and it tells you how many pixels per inch you have available. So if I click on this exclamation point, it's going to tell me that Blurb recommends 200 or more. So anything under 200 is going to give you this little warning sign. So at this point, I know that this photo, no matter how far I zoom out, still doesn't have enough pixels per inch. So in this case, I would probably just replace the photo. If I'm close to 200 and I really want to use the photo, I would take a chance. If it's in the 180 to 200 range, I would make sure that I sharpened it appropriately in the develop module so that I get the best result possible. But I really think that the recommendation is a very solid one. I mean, they've got a lot of experience building their own books. So this exclamation point is not going to show if you have this set to PDF or to JPEG, as I mentioned earlier. So that's a good reason to start out with the blurb setting. So let me go ahead and go back to multi-page view, go back to my film strip, and I'll replace the photo. Now, frankly, because I did auto layout, it used every single photo in my film strip. So as I'm replacing the photo, I'm going to replace it with this one here, click and drag. I'm going to be using this photo twice in my book at this point. Now it's great that Lightroom shows me that that's the case. In the film strip, I'll make the film strip a little bit bigger here. We've got these usage badges, so Lightroom shows us how many times our photos have been used in the book. Great thing to check before you finalize your book. I might expect to use some photos twice if they're used on both the cover and in the book, but I would want to check for that. Anything that's not used, so let me go ahead and delete this back cover photo. So right-click and remove photo, and okay, that one's used again. It's used in the book and it was used on the cover. What I wanted to show you was that when this goes down to 0, you won't see it at all. So let me do this with a different photo. This one, right-click, remove. That one's used again as well. Right-click, remove. Okay, all right, so I'm going to stop doing this. There, okay. I got to one that was not used twice. So this photo does not have a badge on it, and it hasn't been used at all. I think what was happening on the other ones was it just took a minute for that badge to disappear. So this is not used at all. So I know I'm safe to add that to a page. So I've shown you how to add new photos, take photos out, how to swap photos between pages. The next thing to get to is how to move pages themselves. So I'm showing you these basic skills with a not so attractive book, and then we'll actually create one from scratch where I think more about page layouts and what follows what. But let's say that this page here, along with the blank page, I want to move further down in the book. So I click in the area underneath the page to select it. So there are different areas to click, and they do different things. For example, this page has a photo cell. If I click in there, I'm selecting the photo and I get the zoom slider. If I click in the tab here, I'm just selecting the photo itself. So I'll click on that one, hold the Shift key down, click on the one before it. I've got the two selected, and now click, hold, and drag. So I get this nice orange line that shows me where I'm going to drag the photos to. If I want to select several in a row, click on the first, hold the Shift key down, click on the last, and let's say that I want to put that whole block down further. I can click on any one of these tabs. So I'll click right here below those two. I think I accidentally, yeah, that did work. I thought I clicked inside the page, but I clicked in the tab and I moved it. To delete this page here, I would right-click and say Remove Page. So if you've followed me for a while, or even over these 3 days, you've probably heard me say right-click like hundreds of times. So if in doubt about how to do something in Lightroom, if you can get to the right area, meaning if you know you want to do something with a page, or you know you want to do something with a photo, if you right-click, you're probably going to find the menu here. So they've done a great job of thinking about what to build into these context-sensitive menus. Okay, so I'm going to right-click. I'm going to remove the page. Now I have an extra blank page, and it threw off these later pages. So I'll right-click on a blank page, and I'll remove the page. Questions so far?
We always have questions. Well,
I can
Ton.
count on you guys.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
To start, let's see. Nubia is asking, when you delete a photo from the book to replace it with another one from the book, is the photo deleted just from the book, not from the film strip or from Lightroom?
Exactly. So that's a great question, because I know as you're fooling around with something new, at least I'm sometimes afraid to experiment because I'm not sure what the consequences are going to be of what I'm doing. So when I'm going to select this photo here, and notice that it's in the film strip right here. So as soon as I click on a photo, it goes to that photo in the film strip, which is a great tool in itself. But if I right-click in this photo now, and I remove the photo, it's still sitting here in the film strip. So it's still in my collection that I created, or it's still in the folder that I'm working in. It's definitely still in Lightroom, so you're not deleting the photo. Anytime you delete a photo, Lightroom is going to warn you first, so you know that you haven't done anything dire at this point. So
Yeah, that's nice to know.
absolutely.
It is a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, yeah. If in doubt, test it out, because you can't go wrong.
Sam Cox, Loveland, Colorado, is back with a good question. You actually just kind of answered part of it. Is there an easy way to find a picture's page or pages in the book by clicking on the picture in the film strip? So it looks like from what you just showed, you can find maybe one page that it's on, but can you find like multiple pages?
I do not believe there's a way to do that. For example, this photo here, I can click on it in the film strip, but Lightroom doesn't highlight the page that it's on. Certainly, it works the other way around. If I click on the photo in the book, I can see it in the film strip. So you have to just scroll through and find it.
That would be a great feature to have, though, don't you think?
Absolutely.
And then it would highlight all the pages.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Marion from Bucharest, Romania, is asking, is there any way to use other page sizes than the ones just in the blurb templates?
There isn't. So that is a limitation of the book module at this point. The sizes that we have here, the 5 sizes. Now, I mean, I initially thought, well, it would be easy for third parties to make other sizes and, bring them into Lightroom and, what's the problem? Why can't we have complete flexibility? Just put in inches and resolution. But it really is more complicated than that, because an 8x10 isn't really an 8x10. It's an 8x10 with a bleed area or a trim area. So, and there are other size issues here, like building the depth of the spine based on the number of pages you have. So all these issues that complicate sizing and make it difficult for them to provide that level of flexibility. So that also reminds me that I should point out that an 8x10, when you create a book, it's going to be trimmed to 8x10. When you export to a JPEG or a PDF, it's not going to be exactly 8x10. It's going to be probably a little bit bigger, because it also has that same trim area. It kind of carries over from the blurb functionality into the PDF and JPEG. And when we output a JPEG, I'll show you that later, that doesn't concern me that my output is just a little tiny bit bigger than I expected, but that will happen.
Okay, so kind of along those same lines, and sorry for going down this, but
No,
it's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
So John in Kansas says, what if we want to send the book to another publisher? And then he had a question about high gloss paper, but I think, would you recommend still using this and trying to figure out a way to send it off to a different publisher?
Well, theoretically you could, in that you could export a high quality PDF and send it off. But the question is, does that publisher work with the exact same trim sizes and specs that are kind of behind the scenes here? So you'd have to contact that publisher and ask them if you can send books created in Lightroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Diana from London, is it possible to put borders around images?
Yes.
Is that something that we're going to cover?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. We
Okay.
have a few choices in terms of borders.
Great.
Yep. Let's take a look at it. I've been mentioning bleed areas and trim areas. Let's take a look at what I mean by that and how you can preview those. So I'm going to go down to a photo that simply doesn't have an exclamation point, because those distract me. I'm going to click on the tab below the photo to zoom in on it. Collapse the film strip here so we can see it bigger. Now, as I have a page selected, I have this orange border around it. It just means that the page is selected. But if that's distracting me, I can simply click in the gray here so that it's not selected. Let's go down here to the guides section. If I turn on Show Guides, it's going to give me all of this useful information that won't print, but that as I'm designing my book can be helpful. So the page bleed area is this gray area out here. So that area is going to be trimmed. How much of that area is going to be trimmed, we can't say. So that will vary as the book is produced. But plan on possibly losing whatever part of your photos, excuse me, whatever part of your photos goes into that page bleed area. I can turn off that guide if I want, so you can turn off individual guides as well as all of them. The text safe area is this gray square here that, because in the preferences I said constrain the text to the text safe area, you'll see as we get into designing text that we can't get text to go up to the edges. I've said protect me from getting my text too close to the edges of my pages. Photo cells. To show you the photo cell, I'm going to remove this photo. Right click, remove photo. So the photo cell shows you where you can put a photo. Now I happen to have a page format where the photo cell is the exact same size as the page, so I've got this one gray square. If I jump ahead in the content, the course content, and I change this to another page layout, you'll see that now my photo cell is smaller than the page, and I will always have a white border around the photo. So page bleed, text safe area, photo cells, and then filler text. Now filler text, as I mentioned, just reminds you that you have a text cell. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and, on this page, I'm going to add a text cell We'll get into, of course, much more about that, but I'm going to just show you what filler text looks like. So I'm going to add a page caption here. It didn't put filler text in there automatically because my preferences aren't set to put filler text in text cells. So let me go ahead, go back to book preferences, and I'll fill the text boxes with filler text, close this out, close that out, and let me select this page again, turn this off, turn this on, and I'm not seeing the text. Okay, I think I might know what's going on here. No, I don't know what's going on. So I'll figure that out as well, but generally, again, filler text is there just to remind you that you have a text cell. Let's go back to multi-page view, go to a photo page. So the guides, again, won't print, but they're useful when you're designing your book. Okay. All right, let me just go ahead and let's start building a book from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and click on multi-page view here, and I'm going to scroll up to auto layout, and I'm going to clear the layout. By the way, all of the skills that we've learned so far apply whether you started with auto layout or you built things from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the layout, and we'll start. Now I'm going to leave the cover until last. So let's go ahead and start with page 1 here. So I'll click on page 1, and I'm going to go to 2-page spread view. And let's change the page format. You've seen here that this has one photo cell that fits or fills the entire page. So I'm going to go ahead and change the page format on this to have one photo with a border. So there's 2 ways to change the page format. One is the little triangle right here in the bottom right of the page, and I can scroll down to the page section, and you can see that you have the same triangle right here. So I can click on one, let me just go back, that was too quick for you. Okay, let's go to one photo options, and notice that you've got several one photo layouts here. So let's start with a simple one. We'll do one photo with a white border around it, and I'm going to drag another photo into this. And then I can choose to zoom to fit, right click out here, turn off the guides. By the way, Controller Command Shift G, which is on my Output Shortcuts PDF that comes with a course, Controller Command Shift G will turn off the guides, toggle the guides on and off here. So that's looking better. If I want to zoom to fill this cell, perhaps so that all my photos are the same size, right click, zoom photo to fit the cell, and then I can decide which part of the photo gets cropped off. So let's go back to multi-page view here. Now let's add another page. I'm going to click on page 2 here, and over in the page panel, I'm going to choose to add a page. I can also add a blank, but let's just add a page. There we go. I hit it twice, that's why we got two pages here. So in this page, notice that it automatically has the same page format as my last page. So the one photo cell that has a white border around it. Let's change it to a different format. Click in the drop down here with this page selected. Click in the drop down, and we'll do, okay, let's go to the 2 photo section. And we'll do this 2 photos. So I want to keep the white borders, but I want 2 photos on the page here. Now, it doesn't look like anything happened, right? Why don't I have a 2 photo page? Well, I do have a 2 photo page. My guides aren't on, but you can see that I have 2 photo cells here. So with or without the guides on, you can just drag photos in. So with the guides off, the photo cells are still there. It might be easier to do this with them turned on, but I really could simply drag straight up into the photo cells, and I've got 2 on the page. Let me go ahead and double click and zoom in on this page. So both of these photos are fitting the cell. And remember, my default in book settings was to fit the cell rather than fill the cell. So that's why this one, for example, is not filling the cell. Right-click, zoom photo to fit the cell. This is another low-resolution photo, so we'll swap it out with this one here. Right-click, zoom photo to fit the cell. And I can move it around. Okay. Let me see, what else can I do with this? Let's actually change this to a 4-photo layout. Click on the drop-down either here or over here. We'll go to 4 photos. And I'm going to go with 4 photos of the same size but with a white border. But again, notice that you've got lots of formats. I'm going to get into text a little bit later, but when you see a format that has lines, that means that you can put text there if you choose to. And here's frames, we'll get to that, but the viewer that wanted to know how to add frames. Okay, so I've got 4 cells here, and I want to get away from these blurry pictures here. Let's go over to the reflection pictures. And I'll drag these up. Doesn't look too good that they're different shapes, right? So this is a case where I really want to make them all the same shape. I can do them one at a time, click, zoom to fill, click, zoom to fill, etc. But I can also select multiple photo cells. So I'll click on the first, hold the Shift key down, and click on each additional photo cell so that I see all of them selected. Now, right-click, zoom photos to fit cell. I'll click out here in the gray. I've got all 4. And then I can place them. I think this one would look better up at the top here, so I'm going to click and drag that up to the top. And I could continue to decide which one should go where.